Hello and welcome to Upon Further Review. I'm the coach Shannon Griffith alongside with Eric Dukevich, and we are here winding up for the first week of high school football where the games will count and we get to keep score. But last Friday night, we had a chance to get around to some of the scrimmages in the area, and I got out, dude, a chance to get out to Homestead High School and watch the Spartans take on the Panthers there. But I tell you, the new scoreboard and the new end zone facility that Homestead has added is really top notch.
Yeah, that's great. I saw some pictures of it. It was a lot of renovations going out there at Homestead High School, and so we were there last season when they were kind of starting it and getting a lot of the things in, and so to see it kind of blossom into what it's doing, just another one of the schools in the area that are really putting some money and time into their facilities for football, and so pretty cool to see. And I know. We talked about it last week. We'll be there for week one. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but pretty cool for the first week of scrimmages to get out there. Teams lining up, hitting each other, hitting somebody from a different team that isn't in their same jersey. So a pretty cool night to lead into what comes up next week when the games count for real.
Well, and that's the thing about the scrimmages. It gives them a chance to substitute, run guys in and out, trying to get the kinks worked out as we segue in here to these Friday nights games. I get asked quite a bit sometimes what is expected or what can you expect in a game one? I mean, what is running through a coach's mind on Thursday night? And I think the one thing that I always said is special teams. Special teams because you may not have had a chance to live practice it a lot. In the scrimmage, they did a little bit here and there, but you worry about having all 11 guys on the field and on a punt team, or you worry about the long snapper throwing it over the punter's head and giving up a cheap score. And in those first couple games, special teams can be a critical component of those first weeks. I mean, if you look back to last year, Snyder Northside, Talamante's hit somewhere around a 40-plus yard field goal to beat Northside on the final play of the game. So, uh, and then prior to that, right going into half, they had one that was blocked, and I think Northside took it back for 6. So those are the type of things you worry about. Of course, turnovers is a week by week thing that you kind of worry about because you don't want to get any bad habits. But it's fun to get going now. We're going to have everything come up Friday night with our Parkview Sports Medicine pregame show at 6 p.m., where you and Jim Shevlin will join me, and we will break down not only the SAC, but the entire Northeast Indiana slate of football games on Friday night for week one. And tonight, we're going to have a couple guests join us. One, we're going to have our partner in crime, the voice of Fort Wayne High School sports, Mr. Brett Rump, will join us here just in a second. And Chad Zolman from Homestead High School is going to join us to talk about not only the week one matchup against Northrop, but a little bit of a more insight into his team because he's the elder statesman in this conference, 19 years at the helm of Homestead. So he's got a lot going on. And we want to kind of pick his brain a little bit here going into week one that he's kind of, the elder statesman. He doesn't have as many gray hairs as I do, though. So that's the one thing that I can say I still have on him. But very excited for this opportunity this week and being a part of the 1380, the Fan 100.9 FM family to bring you 7 hours of coverage Friday night. You're not going to find any better coverage of high school athletics than 1380 The Fan. So anything you want to lead into with when we get here to our first guests or any other thoughts that you had?
Well, it's good, for for the season to finally arrive, and we've lamented all summer about how fast the summer has gone. Now the summer is basically over. Kids starting school, practices after school, and that the scrimmages are done, and now we lead to game week for number one. And I think it's great to to be in that mode. And what better person to bring in to kind of talk about the summer that was and lead us in than our old buddy Brett Rump from 1380 The Fan and 100.9. Brett, Thanks for joining us. Good to be with you and me asking you the questions this time around.
Yeah, I feel a little self-conscious here because I look at Shannon, who's got some kind of professional studio set up with fancy lights and plaques and awards. And you can see I've got all my awards. Well, they're not there. I just was hoping my vacuum cleaner wouldn't be seen in the picture. But guys, I'm really happy to join you. And it's a little strange for me to be on a video podcast. Normally I do all my talking without anybody putting a camera in my face. So this is new to me.
Well, you look good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. If my wife was only so kind. Thank you, Shane.
Right. That's right.
Sure. Oh, Brett, another season's upon us. I mean, like we mentioned before you came in, the summer has flown by. We're up against another season. I mean, just leading into this SAC year, we come off of a 3-champion league a year ago. Those 3 teams are probably in a lot different places than they were a year ago. Just what are you looking forward to first as this season kind of rolls out and the SAC teams get back into play?
First thing we look for, I think, and personally, is over the first 3 weeks, we're looking at the known versus the unknown. The known are the guys that we know are coming back. There are going to be some anchors from some of the teams in the area. And so, as media, we always project that experience means success. It doesn't always translate that way because a lot of times there's guys waiting in the wings that may be just as good or better than the guys that graduate. But our assumption is always when teams have more players returning, that team's going to be better than the team that doesn't. And so, you go in with a certain known about the season, and that's who's got their returning quarterback, who's got their best offensive weapons, what kind of a defensive presence are these teams going to have. And, but then over the first 3 weeks is when I think our opinions can somewhat change and our perspective changes because now we start to know what is the unknown that only the coaches know about their team. And even the coaches who probably know some of the kids they're going to count on probably don't know what those kids are going to do in reacting to Friday Night Lights until they put them out there. Shannon, you've been in the position where you probably think you got a really talented kid that's going to take over, and then they just completely melt when it comes to Friday. They lose their focus. They just, it's just too big a stage for them, and it takes them a while to come around. So I would say going into the season, how right were we about the teams that we think we know something about, but also keeping our eyes open, keeping our perspective open and not closing our minds to what we think is going to happen by the end of the year, and kind of witnessing what's happening with some of the new names, new faces that we get to learn about this year. Because every year there's going to be 4 or 5 guys that jump out, steal the spotlight that we knew very little about going into the season.
Certainly. And are there any, you mentioned it there. What kind of players have you kind of had on your radar all summer long that you're interested to see play that maybe you saw a little bit of last year and really kind of seeing how they shake out again, or maybe some new people that really this area has yet to learn about?
Well, I think one of the things is going to be how quickly offenses adjust to either new coaches or new quarterbacks, because we're going to see that situation at multiple schools. We've talked quite a bit about the situation at Leo. Jason Dorfler leaves Northrop with that spread offense, heads on out to Leo. How is that going to play with the Leo personnel, and how quickly do they adapt to it? And then you've got 2 quarterbacks that have transferred, one from Homestead to Carroll, one from Dwenger to Northside. And so it'll be interesting to see what's the new setting do for both of those kids, but also what's it mean for their teams. So I guess, if you want to talk about players and what we're going to see and what are some of the question marks I've got going into the season, I'd say it kind of starts there, because then again, you've got Quentin Bowen going from Snyder to Northrop. Northrop had the spread. They've had some defensive issues. You bring a Snyder system in. Are we going to see them trying to run power football? If you look at Northrop's lineup, it's not a Snyder type roster. It's not big. It's also very young up front. They may have some growing pains adjusting to a new system. So like I said, we're going to find out with Northrop right away, because Homestead's got tons of new faces, especially on the offensive side. They do bring back an experienced quarterback, but I think we'll find out exactly where is Northrop at in their process, and how quickly can some of these kids taking over at Homestead have immediate impact.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big question as we head into the first week. And last year we had several games, probably our best lineup of games that were 4-quarter ball games. And you look at the start of last year, and opening kickoff, 95 yards for a touchdown at Carroll's new stadium. But then you had the Lures team that everybody had their eye on, and Carson Clark came out and lit it all up. And that was a heck of a ball game, back and forth. Heading into this first week, with Northrop and Homestead, it's almost like it's the elder statesman against the true rookie, in the sense that he's the first-time head coach. What have you gathered from some of your maybe sources about Northrop, Brett?
Well, first of all, I think it takes time to adjust to a new system and a new culture. I mean, culture doesn't get changed or built overnight, and you've got to buy into what the coach is saying. And, that's something we'll have to witness, not just going into the season, but probably over the next 2 or 3 years. But, one thing I think about, Shannon, is with the difference between last year and this year. Last year, I think we had a pretty good grasp of probably 5 or 6 teams and exactly where they were. I feel like last year, I knew, you had Becker at Carroll. You had, you kind of went through and felt like, okay, exactly who's 1, who's 2, who's 3, who's 4, who's going to be competing for a championship, who's going to be stuck in the middle, and who will be at the bottom of the conference. This year, I feel like it's literally wide open. And I think that's one reason we're seeing all the buzz about Northside, because we look around and we think, if there's a year, and we have this about every 5 or 6 years, right, where we get a team like a Wayne that all of a sudden explodes on the scene and comes out and wins a championship. And it doesn't happen often. Generally, it's the Power 3, Power 4 in the conference that are going to be battling for the championship. But I think the one reason we're talking about Northside is we're just about due for that cycle. It's the last year. We're going to have 9 conference games. Right. Northside, we know, picked up a quarterback in Bodie Dickerson. We feel like now they've got the guy that can get it to their playmakers. And maybe the conference isn't quite as strong 1 through 9 as it was. And, maybe it is, but there's a lot of unknowns going into the season. And when you've got all these unknowns, and yet you look at Northside and you say, oh, I know that guy, and I know that guy, and I know that guy too. And all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe they've got a chance here. I don't know if they'll win the conference. I don't pick them to win the conference, but I don't want to be the team that has to play them each week either, because I think they're going to be, with those types of athletes on the field, they're going to put a scare into coaches every Friday night. You have to face them.
Well, I think the best bus team is Carroll, because when they walked into the media day, my goodness, they were big. I've never seen a Carroll that big, and I'm talking at every spot. I'm not just talking the guys up front. You guys, there's some guys in that secondary and wide receivers. You're looking at 6'2", 6'3", and can play some ball. And of course, I think their linebacking crew is going to be phenomenal. That Dylan Bennett kid, I think he's a tremendous athlete. So I'm excited to see what the year holds in store for us as we go here this Friday coming up, and heading through the season, and see where all the things fall. And it's going to be an interesting season, like they all are. And I look forward to joining you once again up in the booth. I think this is my 8th year. I can't believe it.
I don't know. It feels like 15 to me, but maybe it's only 8. No, seriously, Shannon, just one comment, and kind of building upon what you were just saying about Carroll. Isn't that interesting? Because if you remember when Carroll joined the SAC,
right,
that was the one question about Carroll, about their size up front, about their ability to control the line of scrimmage, their physical play. that was a big question mark. A little bit at Homestead too, but Homestead seemed to adapt a little faster. But isn't it funny that now all of a sudden how the tables have turned, and now we're talking about what a big team Carroll has and big physical kids, and so we'll see. But at least we get to start off with 2 6A schools still in the same sectional, and it should be entertaining. And of course, like I said, after the game, we'll give the rundown of scores all around because there's plenty of games people are going to be interested in. I think if you had me pick, other than our game, what's the one game I'm watching? It's not in the SAC. Interestingly enough, Kokomo-Leo is a game I think that should be on the radar because we might start to see, is Leo going to be a legitimate contender in the NE8 with Norwell and East Noble not far behind in the schedule?
Yeah, and East Noble plays Plymouth. So that's another good one there in the first week. So plenty of great games around us in the greater Fort Wayne area and, of course, Northeast Indiana. But, Rumpy, we thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll get you back on again because I think as we go through, we're going to need a little bit more discussion on the SAC and everything. But you can catch Brett every day from 4 to 6 with the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. There he's got his T-shirt. And then after the game, Indiana Physical Therapy post-game show from the Coventry Pizza Hut. And you can stop by and be a part of that. And sometimes he holds a pizza for me, dude, but I don't know. I might have to fight him this year. But, Brett, thanks for coming on.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
See ya. And heading into week 1, we've got a special guest with us again tonight. Coach Chad Zolman from the Homestead Spartans, 19 years at the head of the Spartans and sitting inside that beautiful building. I couldn't get into it last Friday when you guys were scrimmaging, but I peeked in the windows. I hope nobody thought I was being invasive about looking, but that's a beautiful facility you got.
I'll show you. I'll give you a tour. It is a beautiful facility. It's really nice. Yeah. It's first time I've been here for a long time that we've had a locker room right next to the field. And so we're excited.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful facility.
Yeah. That walk from the building out to the field was probably getting a little, you ever logged your miles on that?
No, I probably shouldn't. Right. We ended up meeting in the barn at half times, So
that's right.
Our meeting spot. So this is way different. It's going to be nice.
Right. Well, it looked beautiful. And of course the new scoreboard looks great. And, I know that I appreciate you taking a few minutes here out of your schedule. I know you guys game plan on Sunday nights as you get ready for the Northrop Bruins. But looking back to the scrimmage here Friday, what did you take away from that, from your perspective with your program and team?
We use it as a great evaluator. That's why we like Snyder. They're gonna truly give us a feel for where we're at, and we rotate just about everybody in. Everybody gets a shot, and then we use the film to evaluate and start figuring out some positions. And tonight's, we're part of what we're doing tonight is hashing out, making sure we're all in agreement on who should be on the field, and that scrimmage gives us that. Offensively, I felt we did some good things, and as the scrimmage went on, we got a little more comfortable, I think, with some of those guys. And same thing on defense. They're a good offense. They've got a really good running back and good quarterback, so they can move the ball. And I felt like the older kids, we're going to be inexperienced on defense, and I felt like they got better as the scrimmage went on, as the first couple groups that were in there. So we always get something very valuable out of that scrimmage just to see where we're at this point.
Yeah, I was there for a good part of it, and I thought it was again, it's pretty controlled. I mean, it's not something that you get too much of an evaluation, guys getting up to reps and that stuff, because that's always a week 1 concern is you get those long drives, and do you have those subs ready to go that can provide you a little bit of a breathing room between your first and second teams when you get into those games, especially if it's hot. But I mean, if it's like tonight, my goodness, fall's here already. I mean, it feels like October outside. Right. Hey, talk to me a little bit now. Your son's playing for you, correct?
Yes.
And he's a senior.
Senior.
How is that you get to coach your son and kind of give some people some insight, because I know at sometimes, being a coach's kid myself, having dad as the head coach, if you played for him, is sometimes good and sometimes bad, but kind of from your perspective, how do you like that aspect of it?
I tried to let other coaches coach him until he got to high school. And so I stood back and just kind of, when he got here, it's been great. I love coach. He calls me coach on the field. He's, it's a unique situation. And so,
right.
I cannot believe he's a senior. I mean, I can't believe how fast it's gone. He's already been through here for 4. But it's really, we have, before every game, he finds me on the sideline right before the game starts, gives me a hug. And, we have a couple words, and it's a pretty cool experience. And I'm going to treasure it for the rest of my life. It's great.
Now, the question I have is, your wife, or is she your son's mom, that after the game has a little conversation with the coach about why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that?
Well, for 19 years, she's been asking me those questions. So I'm used to it when I get home. So
she's your biggest critic, right?
Right. If you know my wife, she's all about football. And no, she's really great. And she's, it takes a special lady to be a coach's wife. And
it does.
Look, we're gone tonight. We were gone Saturday. We're going, it's just, and we haven't even started officially. So she's wonderful. And I have to vent to her sometimes, and she listens and takes it. And, so she's a good sounding board for me too. So it's been good. And she's thrilled about Zach being a senior. She's all trying to be the senior mom instead of the coach's wife. And she's done a good job of that.
I didn't get the chance to play for my father. I played against him as a freshman when he was at Wayne High School. And that was a tough one for me because I grew up on the sideline, I'm sure, like Zach did. So I can understand how that can be a very cherishing moment for all of you involved, mom too. And you're right. It takes a special lady to be a coach's wife, no matter what sport it is, because the time commitment and being away and, being in the stands on Saturday night or Friday night. And, everybody and anybody's either praising you or telling you how bad you are.
She's got some great stories she could tell for sure. Yeah.
Hey, dude, what you chime in here?
Yeah. Homestead coach Chad Zolman joining us here on Upon Further Review podcast. Coach, we talked about 19 years on the sideline. So you've really seen this program blossom since you took over and now in the SAC. Just talk about your time there and really the growth of the overall program that you've seen as the head coach in the last, 2 decades or so.
Well, when I first started coaching, I was my very first job was, believe it or not, at Carroll. Then I went to Dwenger, and then I've been here for a long time now. But the game has changed so much. When you look at where we started years ago, we ran 2 triple option and ran 1 or 2 defenses and 2 coverages, and so the game has changed so much, and it's better. The game is better, and then the athletes are better. The training is better. So we have tried hard to keep up with the changes, and the IHSA has done a great job of advancing football, allowing us to do more, which in turn has made football better in Indiana, and all of those things. It's been fun to watch the progress, not just of Homestead, but across the state. Football is significantly better and advanced. And if you look at the number of Division I kids that were coming out of Indiana, when I first started, I think they were in the teens to 20s, and now we're up over 60 or whatever it is now. So overall, everything has evolved and gotten better, and the quality of play, and it's the most popular sport now in Indiana, and it's really, and as far as Homestead, we've been very blessed to have some consistency of our coaching staff and how we run things and do things, and the expectations and commitment and all of those things. We've tried to elevate the bar every year, and we've been able to, with the help of a great staff and committed players, and we've been able to sustain it for a little bit. So the goal now is to figure out how to make a trip to Indy and make it
Yeah.
a serious run. So that's what we're at.
Yeah. Well, you have Peyton Slavin coming back. Big numbers a year ago, 1,900 yards. Going to be in his junior season, now a senior. Talk about his growth, kind of as a quarterback on the field, but ultimately as a leader of this Homestead football team as well.
Well, his teammates chose him as a captain this year, so I let them choose that. It's a good sign, and his effort has been tremendous in the offseason. It has been for a long time, but physically he's had growth. Just you can tell he's a thicker, faster, stronger player. His arm strength's better than he's got good arm strength last year and it's better this year. And being through a season in this conference is a pretty valuable experience, and you're able to understand the requirements that are upon you and how hard it is to win and how well you have to play to win and how hard you have to play and how to study. And so he's been through all that. So that's why it's good to have a veteran quarterback, and you don't have to learn from game one under fire. It's coming from a different spot the second year in. So he's done some good things, and he settled into that scrimmage and did pretty well throughout the scrimmage. So we're excited to begin the season.
Sure.
Go ahead. Talk about tailback, because and you guys lost some key skill positions from a year ago. Nate Anderson being one. He was a definite deep threat, but the Fox kid, he's kind of the guy that's stepping into the tailback role.
Yeah, we're going to use Brett in a number of spots. He's going to be a slot for us. He'll play some tailback. He's probably the fastest kid on the team, and he's great vision back there. He's patient, and then when he bursts, he can squirt through a hole in a hurry. And we saw that Friday night. I think he's going to be a weapon, and he's definitely a guy that's going to be used in multiple ways. He'll catch passes. He caught a couple good passes Friday night as well. So he's going to be a difference maker for us for sure. He's a good player. And we've got a couple other running backs that are coming along, and when he's not back in the backfield, we got a couple of kids. Cam Johnson will be back there. We got a sophomore who's really developing nicely. He's Jake Thrash, and so the backfield, they will come along nicely this year.
Sure. What about Grant Leeper, the basketball player, 6'7"? What was the pitch to him to come out and line up for you guys in that receiver core this year?
Well, Bill Skelton is a PE teacher, and we see some of his numbers in the weight room and some of the things that he was doing, and he's a tremendous athlete. He can obviously basketball player. He's a tremendous basketball player, but we saw these things, and he's a physical kid on the basketball court, and we thought, we'll give it a shot. And so Bill kind of was on him all off season, saying, "Hey, come on out and try it," in the summer, and he did. And you just don't see 6'6", 6'7" kids that can run as fast as he can. And he had never played football at high school at all until this year. And his growth over the summer and into this, two-a-days is tremendous. He's running great routes. He's catching balls and understands, conceptually, he's starting to figure out spacing and all the little details Coach Skelton preaches at him every day. And he's catching on quick. And he's he's easy to coach. He's one of those kids that just comes to work, and he's got a smile on his face and goes and does what he wants or does what you ask him to. And it's been a good addition. Obviously, he's going to be a tough match, I think, for safeties and outside backers. And when he's a tight end, and even when he's outside, he's going to be a foot taller than some of them. So yeah, we like the possibilities that he's got for us.
Sure. 6-4 a year ago, losses to Lures, Snyder, Carroll twice. What kind of motivation did what last season and kind of that uncharacteristic finish for the Spartans? What motivation did that serve this summer in getting ready for another go around?
Nobody was happy with those results, and that we felt like 3 of those games were winnable, and we were right there at the end for 3 of them, and either we didn't get a stop when we needed to, or we didn't convert on and just there's certain situations. So the emphasis this year has been pay close attention to the details, make sure that we are executing at a high level at all times. And I think that's been the motivation, because if you look back, that's what it is. It's an execution thing. And it's and not that the other team made great plays too. And so it's one of those things that we're really focusing on, and the kids have bought in. Our off season's been as good as it's ever been. The kids are really lifting hard, and they're very coachable out here. And so I'm very pleased, and hopefully that we get into those tight situations again. We've matured from what we did last year, and we'll get over the hump.
Sure. Northrop comes in, week 1 opponent, new coach, some new faces. How do you game plan? Not, week 1, new coach coming in, everything changing up so much for the Bruins. Kind of take us into what this week will look like for you and your staff and your players.
Well, it's difficult because you don't know. You don't, from the scrimmage, you see no special teams, so we're kind of ready for anything on special teams. Offensively, defensively, you get an idea, but Northrop scrimmaged Huntington North, and if you know anything about Huntington North's offense, it's nothing like ours. So you don't get a common look, and so there's a lot of unknowns, and that's a big challenge for us. So we have to be prepared for multiple fronts on offense. We have to be prepared for different things on when they're on offense, and so it's difficult with a new coach, a new staff, and so many unknowns. But your whole summer and off season, you're preparing for multiple things, and so we hope that we have instilled enough knowledge into our kids that they'll be adaptable to whatever they see on Friday.
Sure.
Well, I think one kid you're going to have to be aware of is Mr. Hinton. That kid is a player, and he can cause some havoc along the defensive line. And I've even heard they may stand him up as an outside linebacker as well.
Well, he's athletic enough to play anything on the field. So he stands out on film tremendously. So we're part of our game plan tonight. He's been mentioned several times, and we've got to make sure that we're aware of where he's at and figure out how to handle him. He's a really good football player for sure.
Yeah. Who's mentioning him? Skelton's the coordinator saying who's going to block this guy and keep Peyton.
That's right. Davis, Skelton, and Hartnett, all those guys on offense, or even our running backs on pass pro, and you got to make sure we find this kid and know where he's at. So
going to chip him him first before you go out. Yeah, that's right.
He gets started. He's a great motor.
Hey, Chad, we really appreciate you jumping on here upon further review. And this is something that myself and Doot kind of threw together about 3 weeks ago. And I thought it would be something that we'd have a little fun with, but only if we could get coaches and kids on throughout the season to talk a little ball and bring a little different perspective to some of these things that maybe the ordinary fan is not aware of, and I think it's good to have those conversations and, talk about family and your wife, and you got your son playing for you this year. And I can attest, and I'm going to go outside of the realm here, how much I respect you and your staff since my son played for you guys. I really appreciate all you did in your time when he was there playing under you and your coaching staff. Just a tremendous experience for him. So from the Griffith family, we're deeply appreciative of everyone there at Homestead.
Well, Isaac was a tremendous player, so it was, it's easy to coach. He's a great kid. So it was our pleasure. It's always, I say that in honesty. It's as a coach, that the best part about it is working with these kids, and and so we really do enjoy it. So we're appreciative of having that opportunity. Thank you for having me on. It's been good.
Yeah. Chad Zolman, head football coach in his 19th year from Homestead High School, taking on the Bruins in Quinton Bowen Friday night at 7 p.m. And it will be the 1380 100.9 FM high school football game of the week as we venture out to Walter Stadium. So we enjoy it. We look forward to being a part of it and seeing that new facility. But best of luck this year, Coach. Stay healthy.
Okay.
And we'll see you down the road.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
All right. That was head coach Chad Zolman from Homestead Spartans joining us on the Upon Further Review podcast. And Coach, some pretty cool insight there, leading in, our first coaching guest that we had to kind of look at how it switches from the scrimmage side, well, really the preseason summer
Right.
long workout program to install get into the scrimmages, and now we're heading into week one. This is where this is where it's time to really strap on the helmet and get ready for a fun season.
Well, and I got some video here I'm going to run as we talk through it, but you know, we've got a lot of things that have changed in high school football. They get a lot of time with the kids on during the school year, not just in season but out of season, that they can work with them. They have, weight training facilities. The weight room over here is going to be phenomenal. But, I think Chad and his staff do a great job. We talked about the Hinton kid that's going to be a key component for their success. Now, when I saw them on Friday, I thought offensively they looked pretty decent. The new kid that joined them, is it Leeper? Is that his name? I
Yeah,
can't.
Grant Leeper, yeah, from
Leeper.
Homestead, yeah.
Yeah, he. I think as the year goes on, he's going to get better and better. He did not look out of place. Sometimes you get kids to come out for football and, they look out of place because they've never been out there before, but he did not look out of place at all. The Fox kid, I think, is a talented kid. Defense is going to be um, their biggest thing because they got hit a lot there graduation wise. So maybe not as big, not as, maybe not as fast outside, but I think overall, you're going to solid Homestead team.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean it really, those scrimmages too. They run what, 12 plays each side. Why is that so important? I mean, people think, okay, you have four downs to get the first down, or you punt or whatever. Scrimmage style. Why is it so important, the format that they have on these scrimmages on that first Friday night?
Well, like Chad said, there's no special teams, so you don't get any special teams. What they're trying to do there is build their reps of kids getting used to going an 8, 9, 10 play drive. And from a defense perspective, you're trying to force 3 and outs as many as you can. So that's one thing. And then they move it down into the plus 30. They go from the negative 35, 12 play drives, then to the plus 30 for, I think it's another 10 to 12 play drives. And then they gradually move it into the red zone and do some red zone and goal line if they don't get enough during that time. This is the Fox kid here running, but I think a lot of it is, again, getting kids hitting other people, different reps in that respect, and trying to build their stamina up for the games that are coming up on Friday night. Now you don't get them there because it's just you get them close, but there'll be kids wanting a break because it can play heavy on them, especially the kids that go both ways. And we've got a lot of schools in the SAC that have to go play players on both ways, and that's why I think last year the Lures win at Carroll was especially impressive because they had so many guys going both ways. So, but I think this game, I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns with this, not just from the Homestead sideline, Northrop a little bit as well. I mean, but I looked at their depth chart that I got today from Northrop, and I think size wise they're going to be okay. I think they've got a pretty decent group of kids. I know they had a lot more out um for this year, but they got the Bates kid at quarterback. He's a good sized kid. um Barksdale Wilson at running back, and I think the other kid's name is Ruley, if that sounds familiar. But those two guys in the backfield, and then up front they go 6 foot 6'3", 6'3". I think they've got some decent size to them, and then I think they've got some athletes on defense as well. So, and of course, the Hinton kid can just take it over. I mean, he's such a talented kid, and I'm interested to see him play.
Yeah, and not to be forgotten, the loss of CJ Davis for Northrop
Yeah,
too, transferring to Dwenger in the off season. So a big hit there, but it looks like, yeah, Keon Bates is their quarterback. The last couple years it's kind of been mixing it up for the Bruins, and I think it looks like they've settled on that quarterback in Keon Bates,
Hmm.
who just about 50% passer last year, almost 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, the if they can find that running game too, that's going to be the big question mark. I know Jaden Schmank's another big playmaker for Northrop that can make it happen when the lights are on bright on Friday nights. And so I think for Northrop and Quentin Bowen, it's just you've turned this page and starting here, and you know you get thrown, especially in the SAC, when every one of your regular season games is an SAC game. You're thrown to the wolves right away, and for Northrop playing at Homestead week one on the road, going to be a mighty challenge for them. But that's exactly what the SAC is.
Yeah, and Coach Bowen coming from Snyder, there's going to be an element of Snyder's offense. The power run game will be a big part of what he's probably teaching right now. I also saw they're going with strong guard and strong tackle, which means they'll flip offensive linemen like Snyder does. The other thing that we didn't touch upon, and I don't think it needed to be touched upon, but Homestead lost, the Sullivan kid to Carroll, who just transferred there, Jimmy Sullivan. Now, how does that? Well, it hurts in the spec in the standpoint is now you went from two solid quarterbacks at Homestead to a little bit of the unknown as who is going to be that next guy. So it'll be interesting to see if they don't let maybe Peyton run the ball as much, and try to minimize the contacts that he gets for that one. But it'll be a good first game. We'll see what happens on Friday night. And like we said, that's going to be our high school football game of the week on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. And then, of course, the Parkview Sports Medicine pregame show at 6, where we will have our good pal Chevy joining us to sit between us, and we talk a little bit about Northeast Indiana football. But we've got other games slated for this Friday. What else? Let's start looking at a few of those.
Yeah. So next Friday, another big one, and Brett kind of mentioned it. Some of the other games that were going on, but Northside at Snyder. I mean, that's a big game. The way the schedule shifts every so often, we got a big one out at Spooler Stadium on Friday night. Northside coming in with Tay Johnson, with Bodie Dickerson, and Jonte Lambert, another name that really made a name for himself a year ago, taking on this Snyder team that co-SAC champions a year ago, and lost its sectionals to Bishop Dwenger, but Luke Hopper coming back too. I mean, so it's a great matchup to start off. It's probably one of the top games in the area for sure, with Northside and Snyder uh, facing off this Friday night.
Well, you talked about Hopper. He's going to get backing up is Ron Billingsley, who I tell you, he's a solid football player. I'm sure they're going to use him in other positions, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have some designated packages just for him in their offense. But Langston Lavelle, running back, he looked good Friday night. Big, strong kid. The other kid that came in was this Buchanan kid. He's 6'1", 185. So Snyder again with some big backs in the backfield, and of course up front, they're still pretty good and strong up there. They lost a little bit of size up front, but I think they'll be fine. And then defensively, I think they're going to be good. Their linebacking crew, I think, is going to be really good. They've got Rohrbacher. That's a familiar name at Snyder High
Mm-hmm.
School. And they got the Green kid and then the Talamentes kid, who's also their kicker. Those three kids right there can play some ball, especially the Talamentes kid. That kid is pretty good athlete. He's got a great leg, but he's a pretty athletic kid.
Yeah, and developing depth too at Snyder. That's one of the things they usually have those large senior classes that as one leaves, another one comes in, and so should be interesting in that one. Another one that it could have significant SAC ramifications off the bat. The two other SAC champions from a year ago, Carroll at Bishop Lures. Uh, Carroll, a 10-win season a year ago with the SAC title and the sectional crown. They go to Lures for a team that lost a lot of their offensive star power. Did the Knights, but this promises to be another big matchup and should be a good one come Friday night at Lures Field.
Yeah, I think Carroll, in my opinion, is the team to beat this year in the Summit Athletic Conference. I was impressed with the young men that walked through the door at media day, and that's not to say that just because they look good doesn't mean they're going to play good either. But the Dylan Bennett kid, he's a good kid. Up front, they've got some big boys. They're at the offensive line. Hundley, the kid's 6'2", 250. He's a good offensive lineman. Then you add into the transfer of Jimmy Sullivan, and all of a sudden now I know they lost a great player at a lot of yards with Becker. That you're not going to replace that. But the one thing that I think needs to be said about Jimmy Sullivan is, and I think people have got to choke down the motor, so to speak. He's only a sophomore. He's never taken a snap in a varsity game when the playing is on the line, so to speak. Everything counts. Mop up duty doesn't count. I mean, it gives him experience, but it's not taking step one. He's only a sophomore. But what's going to help him is what's around him Friday night. He's going to have a good nucleus of kids around him and a strong defense. And like I said, I've talked about Dylan Bennett and what he's meant to him. And then, of course, Lures. I think they're going to go with Stansky at quarterback is from what I'm hearing. But the guy that we need to talk about is the Toledo commitment of Nick Thompson. He's a kid that, good football player overall, and he's got a commitment there to Toledo. And big size corner. He does a lot of things for them.
Sure. And that's going to help, with guys coming in, just the ability to have playmakers, another team in Lures that plays a lot of players both ways. So as guys get comfortable in their roles, those big time playmakers are going to be beneficial for Lures. Their defense returns a lot. The Knights have like 7 returners on
Right.
defense, so that's huge for them. That should help in keeping them in close games and maybe not getting in those track meet scores that we saw a lot a year ago. But like we said, they're replacing Lures is replacing a 4,700-yard quarterback, 1,000-yard running back, and 1,000-yard receiver. So it's not every day you get a lineup like that, and not every day you have to replace a lineup like that. So it should be interesting to see where that leads. Another one that kind of intriguing: Concordia at Southside. Two teams that were at the bottom of the towards the bottom of the SAC a year ago. Concordia has Tim Manigal back as head coach. So it should be a lot better. Looking at the scrimmage, Eli Maddox looked impressive.
Yeah.
Found a good in a Johnny Washington, another basketball player that is converted to what looks to be probably the number one threat there for Concordia instantaneously, coach.
No question. I and Tim Manigold, I've talked about my respect for him as a football coach. Eli Maddox coming in now, 3 years under his belt. Interception problems a year ago, but I like him. And they always seem to have some players around him. Now they got a big fella, Bubba Craig, I think is his name. I know his first name Bubba, but when you have Bubba and he's 6'8", I believe, he can cover a lot of ground. And I know that he'll be a force for them on both sides of the football. But yeah, and then we've talked about Southside. Coach Lee is just really trying to establish the program again. I know they felt like they got good turnout. I know they felt like they've got, good participation in the weight room through the summer. And now it's translating that onto the field. They lost some kids, but we'll see what happens there. Southside's always going to have some good athletes running around. But you're right. I think that's going to be a good week 1 matchup.
Yeah, so there's your week 1 matchup for the SAC. We'll also have Wayne at Bishop Dwenger, um, Northrop at Homestead, like we mentioned earlier, Northside, Snyder, Concordia, Southside, and Dwenger at Lures. And coach, a couple other games are worth noting in the area. just by virtue of kind of the odd matchups, odd in the sense that geographically it's not other teams around here. Plymouth travels to East Noble for their yearly matchup. East Noble, a team that lost a lot of talent from a year ago. I think three Division 1 players in their starting rotation. And so, but they also finished third in the NE8. So I think there might not have been, they might not have played to maybe what they expected compared to what they've done. But a new season for East Noble. They got Xander Brazell, the quarterback, coming back. But that's a fun matchup early on because Plymouth has become kind of a bigger team in that North Central Indiana.
Yeah, Plymouth has had some changeover over the year. They've got a very, I guess you'd call it, historic tradition there through the years. I know they've been down some, but it's a good matchup for East Noble. Talking about them and what they have coming back, and I know that Coach up there is really looking forward to this team. I think he feels, even though he lost some kids, and we talked about the couple D1 guys coming from East Noble. Um, I still think he feels like he's got a pretty good squad for him to, come back and give another run for a championship.
Sure. And just to keep track of that, Rowan Zolman headed to Miami of Ohio, Nick Munson and Chris Hood, both the Ball State. So big there. But their defense, too, for East Noble, Trace Holiday anchors that defensive line. Uh, 8 sacks a year ago, 81 tackles. He should be big
Yeah.
up front for them. And really, that should help them. I look for another big year out of
And we're
East
and we're
Noble.
going to get to go up there,
Yeah,
and see them, that Norwell game, which could be a phenomenal early conference game that could have a lot riding on the line because the winner of that game potentially is in the driving seat. Just to back up there on the Munson kid that graduated, he's down at Ball State. Some of my, being that it's my alma mater,
mine
uh,
too.
um, the word out of there, they really like him. And I'm not surprised because he's a pretty good athlete. He's got some speed. He could be a slot receiver for them and some things that they do. So I know they're happy with him being a walk-on for them. So we may see Munson cracking the lineup sooner than later down there in Muncie. So again,
Sure.
had some great talent come out of East Noble.
Yeah, another non-conference game involving an NE8 team. New Haven, they host Marion, which New Haven. We've kind of talked about it. I've talked about it with Brett on his show, and we've kind of talked about it last week with Alan True a little bit. But kind of a sleeper, so to speak, in the NE8 perhaps because they've got a lot of individual talent. The question is every year can the Bulldogs put it all together? 5 straight losing seasons.
Yeah.
And so it's very tough for them. But with Mylan Graham, with James Hardy the fourth, they're figuring out their quarterback situation as well. Trey Bates, another name that I've heard a lot about at New Haven this offseason. There could be some big things for New Haven to take that next step in trying to crack that upper echelon of the NE8.
Yeah, and Brett alluded to this earlier about the game that he kind of had an eye on that wasn't a sack game. He had mentioned this game with, Mylan Graham. What can you say about the kid? He's a phenomenal athlete. He's earned an offer to Alabama. You got Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan State wanting him, and Michigan, Indiana, and Penn State are also on that. He's the number 3 ranked player in Indiana, number 40 in the country. Now, that's all well and good, but he's going to have to that means one thing on Friday night. He is a marked man, meaning he's going to see a lot of double teaming. He's going to see a lot of chirping. So a kid like James Hardy the fourth, who's a tight end now, does he all of a sudden provide that depth and another target to pull off off Mylan Graham? Because if they don't develop somebody else, people are not just going to let Graham run up and down the field. I mean, they're going to double him. They're going to, all they can do. So, um, you can expect some athletes from Marion. We don't know what to expect from them just because they're just outside of our area as a team. They've had some teams in the past that have done pretty good. I know some of them, I think we've even matched up with them a couple times in the playoffs, maybe the regionals or something like that. But they're going to have some good, talented kids coming in here, and that ultimately could be a game that could be a shootout,
Yeah.
in that regard, week one.
Sure, and I think, just looking at my notes too, New Haven hit hard by graduation, so that's gonna be a big question too, is stopping people, especially a lot of those teams in the NE8, when the season gets to there, they can score and score fast, but yeah, Mylan Graham should be fun to watch, and how James Hardy kind of fits at that, because I think they've got him lined up as a tight end, and like I told Brett earlier last week, I think there's a lot of people that don't know that there's James Hardy the fourth playing
Right,
football at New Haven High School, so I think he's only gonna be a junior, so he's
right.
got some time to grow, so hopefully this could be a breakout season for him too.
No question.
Sure.
Absolutely no question. And that's kind of the roundup of all the games as we head into week one. And pretty good slate of games. I think right now the weather forecast looks great from that standpoint. But one thing that we did is we kind of came together and decided, I gave you my top finishing schools for the Summit Athletic Conference, and you gave yours. And let's see kind of how we ranked our schools. Now, we didn't collaborate on this. This was just our own thing. And
Yeah. Coach, we'll
I
let you go first.
okay. Well, I picked Carroll Chargers. I think they're a team that's to be kind of the team to beat. Of course, Snyder's going to always be there in the fray. I picked Northside in the fourth position. I think they could be the surprise team. Now, how does that happen? Well, it starts with Dickerson. If he's a guy that can distribute the football, and Brayshawn Bissett, Tay Johnson, and the pack that's with them can score points, but also play good defense. I think the Legends could have one of those years that's pretty special.
Sure. Yeah, and going ahead and looking at mine there, uh, we kinda
Yeah,
flip-flop there.
yeah, we're
I
close though.
Yeah, we're close. I mean, I think, I picked Snyder. Full disclosure, I'm a Snyder alum, so I already know they're gonna go, "Oh, you picked Snyder because 'cause you're the homer."
Homer.
But I mean, I think a lot of times too, and coach, we see this year after year and kind of the way we talk about this league too, is a lot of times you're almost splitting hairs when you get to that top level,
Oh yeah.
especially preseason before you even get to week one. Carroll, Snyder, Dwanger, Homestead. I do like moving down. Carroll number two, Northside number three. I do like the addition of Bodie Dickerson and what he can mean to
Mhm.
Tay Johnson and what that combo can mean to that Northside offense. And I think they've got some playmakers and you know moving guys that have kind of played both ways or become a third string quarterback, but they really were a first team DB. I think if we can get those guys and keep them healthy, Northside can have that big year. It'll be interesting how it all shakes out down the line. And I think Concordia looking for a big rebound year. It kind of all sorts itself out. But it's always fun to go back then, a couple weeks from now, maybe 3 months, we'll take a look at all this and see
Yeah.
where all that lies. But that's kind of the way we look at it and where it starts. But we got solid teams in the SAC,
Yep.
solid players, and that's what's going to be fun about this season.
Well, not only the SAC, you got the ACC where what's going to happen there with South Adams, Adams Central. You can just name them all. The Northeast State, what that all. You got a team up there that went all the way last year and had some heartbreak with East Side. Now, how are they going to be this year? I know that Coach Mason feels like they're going to be okay, even though they lost another tremendous athlete. So we're going to have a chance to cover these teams as we go on. Remember, this Friday night, first week one in the Summit Athletic Conference, we come with you 7 hours of coverage starting at 6 o'clock. We'll pick up from the Sports Rush portion of the coverage at Walter Stadium. Dude, myself, Jim Shovelin, will sit there and cover all the area games then I will join Brett Rump up in the booth for the high school football game of the week on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. I hope that everyone enjoyed this. If you have any questions, we can be reached on Twitter as well as at Upon Further Review, which is at UFR_SAC. Please like and follow or subscribe to that for us on YouTube and Facebook. Again, smash the like, smash the subscribe so that you can get updated each and every week. Dude, I will see you 6:00 on Friday, my man.
Yep, we'll be there at Homestead. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing the new digs. I've not seen it since they kind of started the construction, so really looking forward to it. It's a huge project out there. Just it shows how big the schools are getting outside of Fort Wayne Community Schools. Carroll's building getting huge. Homestead, Leo's another one. So that should be interesting down the line, 5 or 6
Right.
years now, how that will all look as far as teams in the area. But yeah, looking forward to getting into it and all the coverage all season long and hearing Brett and you in the booth every Friday night from the game of the week. And you never know where we'll be. We'll keep you posted week to week on where we're headed next. But like I said, next week is at Homestead. So looking forward to it.
Yep. Well, I think we should wrap her up here. So for Doot, I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. This has been Upon Further Review. We'll see you next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. God bless to every one of you, and good night.